All right, let's get right into it. When most people hear Rocket Lab, they think, oh yeah, the small rocket company. But today, we're going to look way past the launch pad. We're going to uncover the real competitive advantage, a deep, powerful moat that they've been building quietly, methodically, and pretty much right under everyone's noses.
You hear this question all the time, right? And look, on the surface, it makes sense to ask. But here's the thing. Framing Rocket Lab as just a mini SpaceX totally misses the point. It's the wrong way to look at it. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly why.
So here's the big disconnect. The common view is, yeah, small rocket company. But the strategic reality, what's actually happening, is that they're building something way, way bigger. They're becoming a full-on space infrastructure prime. Think of it less like a competitor and more like a foundational pillar of the industry.
So here's how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll look beyond the rockets. Then, we'll see how their Electron rocket was actually the bedrock for everything that came next. We'll get into the details of their real moat, explore their future as a prime contractor, and finally, see why this massive advantage has been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
Okay, let's start with the part of the story most people miss. You know, every decade or so, you get a company that just quietly builds its empire under the radar. Think about Amazon or NVIDIA in their early days. The argument here is that Rocket Lab is doing that right now, step by step, without all the usual hype. So you might be wondering, how can you even build a moat in an industry as crazy as space? Well, this slide lays it out perfectly. You've got an explosion in demand for satellites for everything from communications to defense. But, and this is the key, the barriers to getting in are just incredibly high. We're talking massive capital, complex regulations. It's just plain hard. And that difficulty is exactly what makes these moats so incredibly strong and durable once they're built.
And that brings us to the rocket everyone thinks they know, Electron. But we're going to look at it a bit differently. It's not the end product, it was the strategic first step that made everything else you're about to see possible.
The magic word here is consistency. With dozens and dozens of successful launches, Electron has built this incredible reputation for reliability. And that's not just about getting satellites to orbit. It's about building trust, deep, institutional trust with customers and, most importantly, with governments. That trust, that's the very first layer of the moat.
This is just such a brilliant piece of strategy. Instead of trying to go head-to-head with a beast like Falcon 9, they carved out their own territory. They dominated the small satellite market, and that gave them two crucial things: credibility and cash flow to fund their real, much bigger ambition. Okay, so now we get to the absolute heart of it. We've been throwing this word moat around, but what does it actually look like for Rocket Lab? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a bunch of different layers that all work together, compounding on top of each other to protect the business. I mean, it's a simple concept, right? A moat protects a castle. A competitive moat protects a company. But for Rocket Lab, it isn't just about having a better rocket. It's about how all the different pieces of their business, the rockets, the software, the components, fit together to build a defense that is just incredibly hard for anybody else to copy.
And the next huge piece of that defense is Neutron. If Electron was the key that unlocked the door, Neutron is the plan to build out the entire castle. It's designed from the ground up for the next big thing in space, deploying huge constellations of satellites. And look at this. By making everything in-house, from the carbon fiber body to the engines themselves, they have total control. That's a massive advantage.
Okay, now this might be the most powerful and definitely the most overlooked part of Rocket Lab's entire moat. While everybody's watching the launches, this company has quietly become a critical supplier for the entire satellite industry. Look at this stuff: star trackers, reaction wheels, flight software. Once a satellite maker designs your component into their satellite, they are not switching. The costs are just too high. It creates this incredibly sticky, reliable revenue. It's genius.
And this is where it all comes together in this beautiful, self-reinforcing cycle, a flywheel. It starts with selling those components. That expertise lets them build entire spacecraft for their customers. Well, guess what? Those spacecraft need a ride to orbit, which creates demand for their own rockets. That gives them more scale, which lowers their costs, which makes everything stronger. Every single turn of the wheel makes the next turn easier and more powerful.
So what's the end game? Where is all this heading? It's not just about being another successful space company. The ultimate goal is to become an indispensable prime contractor for the single biggest customer there is, the US government and its allies.
This right here is so important for the future. For national security, the United States cannot and will not depend on just one company to get to space. It's a strategic vulnerability. They are aggressively looking for a second reliable American-made option. And Rocket Lab, with its track record and its all-in-one manufacturing, is positioning itself to be the perfect answer.
Now let's be real for a second. This is not a sure thing. Building a moat this deep is incredibly difficult, and there are major risks. The number one risk is execution. They have to deliver Neutron on time and on budget. And of course, this business takes a ton of money, the competition is fierce, and government budgets can change. These are very real hurdles they have to clear.
So, let's tie this all together. When you step back, you see that Rocket Lab's true advantage isn't any single thing. It's not just the rocket. It's the powerful combination of launch, components, software, and manufacturing all quietly working together, hiding in plain sight.
And if they pull it off, just look at what this could become over the next decade. Today, they're a trusted launch provider. By the end of the decade, they could be a dominant supplier and a critical government partner. The end state isn't to be a copy of SpaceX. It's to become the Lockheed Martin of new space, a core, essential piece of Western space infrastructure.
And honestly, this quote from the source material just says it all, doesn't it? The flashiest companies get all the attention, but the ones that build their advantage slowly, piece by piece, historically, those are the ones with the moats that truly last. So, that leaves us with this final question. We've laid out all the pieces: the dependable rocket that built trust, the secret powerhouse and components, that beautiful flywheel effect, and a massive government opportunity. The moat is being dug right now as we speak. The only question left is just how deep and wide it's going to get.